Today is Wednesday, the 29th of April 2026, and I'm attending the Asian Business Connections Inclusion by Default Conference 2026 in partnership with Shine Northeast at Napier Armory in Gateshead. Speakers at today's conference include Shine Program Manager Caroline Preston, Andy Black, Head of Strategic Communications at the British Army's headquarters north of England, producer, director and actor Craig Conway, Colonel Pete Winson and local faith leaders Reverend Dr. Peter Kayode Udegbiye, Muhammad Rahman and Pundit G. Krishan Utri. On the bus to Newcastle, I spent time in prayer and meditation and focused the mind and prayer outwards towards others, my community, those enduring struggle and suffering. Praying for others shifts us from self-centeredness to service. When we pray for others, we participate in something bigger than ourselves. Selfless prayer transforms both the one who prays and the one prayed for. As I passed the town moor, I observed the beautiful blue sky and absorbed the nature before arriving at Newcastle Haymarket. Exemplar Voices. Today is Wednesday, the 29th of April 2026. It's 6 a.m. It's a lovely morning. The sunshine is shining behind me here in Newcastle. Today I'm attending the Inclusion by Default conference in Gateshead, hosted by the High Sheriff of Tyne and Wear, Amar Mirza. And also in attendance today will be the Police Commissioner and also a range of speakers who will be talking at today's event. Today is another opportunity for networking with local business and community leaders, faith leaders and entrepreneurs. We're going to have a lunch. The event runs from 9 a.m. till 1 p.m. I'm here in Newcastle. I've just been on the bus there for 45 minutes. I'm switching here to jump onto the metro and heading towards Gateshead Interchange, where my friend Neil will be collecting me. We're going to have some breakfast, have some coffee and some morning connection, and then we're going to head over to today's event. So I'll leave it here for now and I'll see you on the other side. All the best. Next, I boarded the metro at Haymarket and headed towards Gateshead while enjoying the relaxed journey, before arriving at Gateshead Interchange, where I enjoyed some fresh air before my friend Neil showed up to take me for breakfast before the conference. We arrived at Gateshead Wetherspoons, where we ordered 2 coffees before ordering 2 small breakfasts. 1 sausage, 1 hash brown, 1 egg and 1 portion of beans. Next, we hit the road and entered Napier Armory in Gateshead for the Inclusion by Default 2026 conference. Upon arrival, we were warmly greeted and welcomed, and both Neil and I took a photo of ourselves at the Inclusion by Default banner. Next, we found a table and reviewed the day's order of play. In particular, I reviewed the section on why we are here and what this moment means. Over nearly 2 decades, AB Connexions has connected businesses, communities and institutions across the Northeast to create opportunity and drive inclusion. Deep engagement across our communities has surfaced a consistent picture. Inequality remains, trust is under pressure, and opportunity is unevenly distributed. Today is our direct response, not to revisit the challenges, but to design solutions and commit to action. The High Sheriff of Tyne and Wear and founder of Asian Business Connections, Amar Mirza, kicked off the conference and spoke about his role as the High Sheriff. Amar spoke about designing systems where everyone can contribute and grow and belong. A reset on how we design communities. There are disconnected journeys, untapped potential, and inequality of opportunity. The sheriff spoke about inclusion by default and trying to build systems where inclusion by default is a starting point and not an afterthought. The system was argued out of balance, resulting in structural inequality. There are barriers to opportunity and bias in decision-making. Colonel Pete Winton took the floor and spoke about inclusion and the 1960s, when we ended conscription and national service. Colonel Winton spoke about the active conscription service in Finland and the current national debate in Germany to bring it back. Colonel Winton spoke about how we have tended to recruit from the same social groups and same families, which makes us non-exclusive, and that this shows us that we do not represent the UK as a whole. This creates a challenge from our political leaders to be more inclusive and more representative of the UK. The Colonel then went on to speak about issues of bullying and harassment in the armed forces, and a number of things the British Army are currently doing to address these issues, recognising that we have an institutional problem and that we are not a perfect institution. Once we accept and acknowledge this, we can then address and change our policies. Harassment and bullying are not acceptable. And if you bully and harass, you break down belonging. And if you don't or won't understand this, then you are not welcome in this organisation. The British Army will teach you that you are part of this organisation and you will contribute to this organisation and that everybody is welcome. Craig McNally, DE&I lead from Newcastle Building Society, took the floor and gave a speech on money and health. Craig argued money, mental health and opportunity are inseparable. Financial stress impacts mental health, confidence and decision-making. Craig spoke about strategic pillars, helping people own their own home, building lasting, authentic relationships, people realising their potential, fostering inclusion and financial sustainability. Craig went on to speak about raising awareness with young people in schools on how to manage money more effectively and reducing barriers and expanding access for the youth. Andy Black took the floor and spoke about his extensive work with schools, students and businesses, working with hundreds of schools, hundreds of businesses and hundreds of young people with enterprises. As part of the primary inspiration through enterprise project, students and teachers can get enterprise qualifications, as can parents and carers, which advances a coherent system of delivery. Andy Black then spoke about expanding this enterprise project for young people beyond the North East by looking at digital transformation and scalable delivery. The impact ambition, 10,000 qualifications per year across specific age groups of young children. If we can address the social isolation and loneliness children feel, then children can learn to be confident, make and earn money, manage money and look after their money. Faith leader Reverend Dr. Peter Kayode Udegbeye took the floor and delivered a powerful talk on the power of love. Love will open doors which language can't. Service bridges gaps in our communities. We can choose love, we can choose service, and we can choose to create a society where everyone feels welcome. Inclusion is about giving everyone the key and saying you are welcome here. Pundit G. Krishan Utri then spoke about raising money for charities and marathon running all over the world, and the importance of helping and supporting people in need in our communities. Imam Muhammad Rahman then shared a very personal story of his journey with faith from an early age in the face of racism. He spoke about the importance of creating a legacy with inclusion by default, and that together we can be a force of change for the future. The Police and Crime Commissioner, Susan Dungworth, took the floor and spoke about the major role of the Commissioner being to devise and construct the police and crime plan. The Commissioner spoke about her passion for her role and spoke about how important it is for her to listen to and hear the voices across the breadth of spectrum of society and not just the loudest voices.
So I am back in Newcastle now, and my good friend and associate Neil, he dropped me off at George Street Social. George Street Social is a local recovery community hub which offers support for the recovery community, whether you are in early recovery or long-term recovery. And it's a welcoming and safe place where they facilitate meetings and groups and yoga and training and recovery related things. Neil had a training appointment there for one of his recovery ventures. So he dropped me off there, we parted ways, and I'm just here back in Newcastle, ready to take the journey home and offer some thoughts and reflections on the day. So today's event, the Inclusion by Default conference, was absolutely fantastic. It was exceptionally well run, organised and delivered. All the speakers who spoke, and there was many of them, were absolutely fantastic, all organised, well prepared, and there were so many speakers from a range of different factions of society and from a range of different businesses and organisations, from local banks all the way to the British military. At one point a colonel took the floor. And whilst they spoke in depth about either their lived experience or their specific area of expertise in business, the emphasis and the onus throughout was on inclusion and advancing and ploughing the fields for a society and a community which includes everybody, no matter who we are, what background we're from, what religion, what ethnicity, no matter what social group. And you could feel that in the room today, and you could not only feel it, it was potent, very potent. And myself and Neil both felt very included, very welcomed. Everybody was so warm. The food was lovely, and we all shared food together. And again, you know, in that, food is love, it bonds us together. So I met the police commissioner. She was very, very lovely. She has a passion for the role that she has now been doing for 2 years and will continue to do for the next 2 years. I also met another High Sheriff, the High Sheriff of Northumberland, again, who has a passion and a drive to undertake and to deliver her role as best as she possibly can to contribute to safer communities and more effective outcomes for the citizens of Northumberland. We had some good conversations around criminal justice. We had some good conversations about what we can all do together and how we can be more effective as one, all working together for the same objective, as opposed to just working individually, and how isolating that can be at times. So a good emphasis on togetherness, on unity, on inclusion, on optimism, on hope, on carrying that torch forward in the northeast of England for inclusion. And it was a very inspiring day and a very productive day. Another theme that came up was the importance again, of teaching and educating our country's youth and the youth in the Northeast to better manage money, the importance of saving, and to unlock that entrepreneurial potential and flair in the youth of the Northeast. So Andy Black spoke about this at length. He's very eloquent, very knowledgeable about this project that he's delivering, and his hope and optimism for this project to be rolled out beyond the Northeast, and to inject that inspiration into and unlock the dormant potential in the next generation of entrepreneurs, which only nurtures the fabric of our economy in this country, correct? So, yeah, it's that continuing sharpening of the reality that keeps coming up, in the sense of all of this dormant potential and talent in our local communities, in youth and in adults, and sometimes that lack of belief in amongst us, for whatever reason, or for a whole host of reasons. Unlocking that potential, identifying that potential and that talent in people, and supporting the people in our communities to believe in themselves, and to guide them and assist them to unlock their potential. And I think that's the lesson of the day for me from this event, is again to believe in yourself, but also the necessity and the requisite for those of us who are disciplined, who have achieved in life and in our community, to be of service to our brothers and sisters in our society, to help and support them. We had 3 amazing speeches from 3 prominent local faith leaders, and one of them was very clear that in his experience of decades of being a faith leader and being of service to others and the community and God, is that the majority of people that he encounters, if he asks them what they want, it's not to be saved, it's not to be born again, it's help and support. So that was a very powerful speech and an important lesson there for all of us, I think, and a reminder of how all of us can, or many of us can, often need that nudge and that guidance and that help and support in the right direction. And it's definitely my experience, you know. I've had a lot of help and support for many, many years. There's been big investment in me by HMPPS, by the MOJ, even by the parole board who believed in me, and by community leaders, community practitioners, residential rehabs, counsellors, and I've had a lot of help and support, and I'm committed to delivering on that investment and to be of service to others in amongst my endeavours of achieving my objective of becoming a successful social entrepreneur. What was also nice to experience today was to see my good friend and associate Neil come into this environment, which, to be fair, was outside of his comfort zone to what he's currently involved in at this juncture in his recovery. To see him being so warmly welcomed and treated so respectfully in this safe and healthy and inclusive environment. And I saw the potency and the power of the inclusion by default ethos and idealism today in the experience that Neil had. And it was great to see him excelling and flourishing in this environment, to be so warmly welcomed by all, but also by Amar personally, and for Neil to feel included and that he has the support of all these different people that he met. He had a great conversation with one of the pastors, and you know, there's a mutual interest there with faith and faith leadership, and I'm just so pleased for Neil, and this is a really positive step in the right direction for him in his journey right now. And I think he's got lots to reflect on and lots to think about. I could feel and see that inspiration and hear it from him in the car on the way from the event to George Street Social, all the different things that were going through his mind. And you know, he's a competent individual and will, I'm sure, spend some time in reflection on the day. And so yeah, really positive and productive day. And watching people grow, you know, watching people heal and grow and transform, and you know, there's nothing like it.